"What do you do for a living?" Her voice was cold, her eyes scanning the oil stain on his work shirt. "Industrial electrician," he replied calmly. "Oh, so you basically just plug things in?" She laughed lightly, her lips curling with disdain. He set down his coffee cup. "No, I fix what's broken, including trust. I don't need anyone to fix me." She stood, walking away without paying the bill, leaving him sitting alone. 1 month later, fire alarms screamed through Everlight Tower. "There's someone trapped in the elevator," a security guard shouted through the smoke. Daniel Hayes, the night shift electrician, rushed into the flames and chaos. Metal doors burst open, smoke billowing out, and there she was, the woman who'd mocked him, now choking in the dark. "You..." She looked up, shocked. He knelt down, extending his hand. "Take my hand now if you still want to live." In the red emergency lights and smoke, the ordinary man became the only hope for the woman who'd looked down on him. Daniel Hayes was 38 years old, a former Navy electrical engineer, now working as an industrial electrician in Chicago. After an accident that took his wife's life, Daniel lived with his young daughter Lily, 9 years old, a girl with a bright smile who loved making nightlights from empty milk cans and spare wire. Their life was simple, revolving around the small electrical workshop, late dinners, and Lily's voice reading books aloud every night before bed. The apartment smelled like solder and her strawberry shampoo, a combination that had become home. His co-workers at the shop liked to tease him. "You fix the whole city but can't fix your own heart." They'd secretly created a dating profile for him and practically forced him to go on one blind date. "Just one evening, Dan. What's the worst that could happen?" The restaurant was Maison Blanc, upscale and elegant, with golden light reflecting off marble tables and crystal glasses. Daniel felt out of place immediately, still wearing his work boots because he'd come straight from a service call. The woman across from him was Elena Voss, 34 years old, CEO of Voss Dynamics, a major energy corporation, tall, cold, and sharp as broken glass. Her perfume was expensive. Her watch probably cost more than his truck. Everything about her screamed success and superiority. "So what do you do?" she asked. Not really interested, already typing something on her phone. "Industrial electrician." "Oh, how interesting." Her tone suggested it was anything but. "I mostly meet people who run companies, not people who, well, plug things in." Daniel smiled, unfazed. "We only show up when the lights go out, and that's when we matter most." "I'm sure." She glanced at her watch, a clear signal. "Look, I think we both know this isn't going anywhere. I have standards, and you seem nice, but I need someone on my level." "Your level?" he asked quietly. "Professionally, intellectually, financially." She stood, gathering her designer purse. "I don't need someone to turn on lights for me. I am the light." She walked out without another word, leaving him with the unpaid bill and the stares of other diners who'd overheard. Daniel paid, left a generous tip for the embarrassed waiter, and wrote something on a napkin, leaving it on the table. Electricity can fail, but respect shouldn't. Outside, Elena threw the crumpled napkin toward a trash can. Missed, considered leaving it on the sidewalk, but something made her pick it up, smooth it out, and tuck it into her coat pocket. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the calmness in his eyes when she'd insulted him. Maybe it was curiosity about a man who didn't fight back or grovel. That night, Lily asked her father about the date while they worked together fixing an old radio. "How was the fancy dinner, Dad?" "Educational," he said, handing her a screwdriver. "I learned that some people measure worth in dollars instead of character." "That's sad." "It is, but that's their loss, not ours." "She doesn't know what she's missing. You're the best dad and the best fixer in the whole world." He hugged her tight, this little girl who saw him clearly, who understood that value wasn't about titles or bank accounts. "And you're the best daughter. That makes me the luckiest man alive." The napkin stayed in Elena's pocket for days. She'd find it when reaching for her keys, see those words again. Respect shouldn't fail. It annoyed her, haunted her, made her think about things she'd rather ignore. But life moved on, and she forgot about the electrician with the calm eyes and the daughter he'd mentioned briefly. Forgot until the night everything went dark, and she needed him more than she'd ever needed anyone. 1 month later, a massive storm hit Chicago. Lightning struck Voss Tower's main transformer, causing a cascading electrical failure throughout the building. Daniel was on night shift, one of 3 electricians covering emergency calls across the downtown district. His radio crackled at 11:30 p.m. Major incident at Everlight Tower, multiple floors without power, possible fire hazard. He grabbed his gear and drove through the rain, windshield wipers barely keeping up with the downpour. The scene at the tower was chaos. People streaming out of the building, fire trucks arriving, sirens cutting through the night. The building's backup generators had failed, leaving everything in darkness except for emergency lighting. The site supervisor grabbed him immediately. "We've got live wires sparking on the 18th floor, and the main circuit breaker won't respond. We need someone who can work in the dark." "That's what I do," Daniel said, strapping on his headlamp. He was halfway up the emergency stairwell, breathing hard from the climb, when the fire alarm system activated. Not a drill, real smoke, real danger. His radio burst to life. "We have someone trapped in elevator 3, stuck between 17 and 18. Repeat, civilian trapped." Daniel changed direction, heading for the elevator shaft. The smoke was getting thicker, acrid and choking. He could hear the crackle of electrical fires, see the occasional spark illuminating the darkness. He reached the elevator doors and began manually cranking them open with a pry bar. The metal groaned, resisted, then gave way. Smoke poured out. Inside, huddled in the corner, coughing violently, was Elena Voss. She was still in her business suit, one shoe missing, her hair disheveled, mascara running down her face. She looked up through the smoke, and their eyes met in the red glow of his emergency light. "You." Recognition and disbelief fought in her expression. "Hold on." He wedged the doors open, creating an escape route. "Can you move?" "I think so. There's glass. My foot is cut." "Take my hand, now." She reached up and he pulled her out of the elevator with one strong motion, then immediately lifted her in a fireman's carry. She was heavier than she looked, or maybe he was more tired than he thought, but he moved anyway, back toward the stairwell, away from the smoke. She coughed against his shoulder, her grip tight on his jacket. "The stairs. I can't." "You don't have to. Just hold on." He carried her down 3 flights before the smoke thinned enough for her to breathe normally. Down 2 more before the emergency crews met them with oxygen masks and medical equipment. As the paramedics took over, checking her vitals, treating her cut foot, Elena grabbed Daniel's wrist. "You're the one from that night, the restaurant." "Still fixing what's broken," he said simply. "I was horrible to you. You were honest about how you felt. That's not the same as horrible." "But you're safe now. That's what matters." He turned to leave to get back to his work, but she called out, "Wait, what's your name? Your actual name?" "Daniel Hayes." "Daniel." She tested it like learning a new word. "Thank you. You saved my life." "I save lives. It's part of the game, even if it's not as glamorous as running a corporation." The next morning, Elena woke up in her penthouse apartment with bandaged feet and a crushing headache. But all she could think about was the calm certainty in Daniel's eyes, the strength in his arms, the way he'd risked himself without hesitation. She sent a message through her assistant. "Find Daniel Hayes, the electrician who worked last night. I want to thank him properly." When Daniel received the invitation to meet at her office, he almost declined. He had a service call scheduled, and Lily had a school play that evening. But something made him accept, maybe curiosity, maybe the sense that this woman was trying to become someone different than who she'd been. Her office was on the 40th floor, restored to power but still showing signs of damage. Scorch marks on walls, temporary lighting, the smell of smoke still lingering. Elena stood when he entered, and he noticed she was barefoot, her injured foot preventing her from wearing shoes. Somehow it made her seem more human, more vulnerable. "I owe you my life," she said without preamble. "You don't owe me anything. I was doing my job." "No." She shook her head firmly. "You went into a burning building. You carried me down 5 flights of stairs. That's not just it all. That's heroism. It's responsibility, People depend on the electrical systems I maintain. When they fail, people get hurt. I take that seriously." She studied him for a long moment. "I was wrong about you. Completely, utterly wrong. You judge me by my paycheck and my clothes. That says more about you than it does about me." The words weren't cruel, just factual, and somehow that made them hit harder. "I want to make it right," she said. "Then remember this. Everyone has value. We just shine in different ways. The person who keeps the lights on is just as important as the person in the corner office. Maybe more important when the power goes out." He left his business card on her desk, the plain, white one with just his name and number, no fancy logo or title. "If your building needs electrical work, call the shop. We're very good at what we do." After he left, Elena picked up his card, turning it over in her hands. On the back, barely visible, was a child's drawing of a light bulb with a smiley face. Lily's work, probably drawn during a slow day at the shop. Elena kept the card, kept the hard hat Daniel had worn that night, still smelling of smoke, sitting on her desk where her assistant tried repeatedly to throw it away. Something was changing in her, something she didn't quite understand yet, but she knew it had started in the darkness when a man she'd dismissed had become her only hope. 2 weeks after the fire, the internal investigation report landed on Elena's desk like a bomb. The electrical failure had been caused by deferred maintenance. Budget cuts she'd personally approved to boost quarterly profits. Equipment that should have been replaced years ago had been pushed to next fiscal year repeatedly. One person had died in the fire, a security guard on the 20th floor, a father of 3. His name was Robert Chen. Elena had never met him, never even knew he existed until he was gone. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. 20 stern faces, most of them older men who'd never quite accepted a woman CEO, now seeing their opportunity. "Miss Voss," the chairman began, his voice dripping with false sympathy, "this tragedy could have been prevented with proper maintenance. The question before us is whether your leadership prioritizes profits over safety." Marcus Layan, her VP of operations, spoke up. He'd been angling for her job since she was promoted over him 3 years ago. "I raised concerns about the maintenance budget last year. They were dismissed." "That's not," Elena started, but he cut her off with a folder of emails. "Documentation shows you personally rejected the maintenance upgrade proposal 3 times. Your note said, 'Find cheaper alternatives or defer until next quarter.'" The room went silent, all eyes on her, judging, condemning. She'd been so focused on stock prices and shareholder value that she'd forgotten the real people depending on the systems she controlled. People like Robert Chen, people like Daniel Hayes who risked their lives fixing what cost-cutting AGA had broken. "I take full responsibility," she said quietly. "My decisions led to this tragedy. I failed in my duty to keep people safe." "Then you agree you should step down?" Marcus pressed, sensing victory. "I agree I made terrible choices, but stepping down doesn't fix anything. It just lets me run away from the consequences." "So what do you suggest?" the chairman asked. "I suggest we find out what really happened, because I'm not the only one who approved those budgets, and I'm not the only one who benefited from the cost savings." That night, Elena found herself standing outside Daniel's shop, a small industrial building in a working-class neighborhood. Through the window, she could see him teaching Lily how to wire a circuit board, his patience infinite, her concentration complete. She knocked. Daniel looked up, surprised, and came to the door. "I need help," Elena said without preamble, "and I don't know who else to trust." They sat in his small office, Lily coloring in the corner with headphones on, while Elena explained everything. The budget cuts, the investigation, Marcus's power play. "The thing is," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "I think I'm being set up. The maintenance rejections, I approved them, yes, but only after the engineering reports said the systems were still safe. Now those reports are missing from the server." Daniel leaned forward. "Who had access to those files?" "Just engineering leadership, Marcus's department." "Did you keep backups?" "Everything should be on the central server, but someone deleted the original engineering assessments. Now it looks like I cut costs without technical justification. Can I see the system? They went to Voss Tower late that night, after Lily was safely at Daniel's sister's house. The building was mostly empty, just security and cleaning crews. Elena's executive access got them into the secure server room. Daniel studied the backup systems, his trained eye seeing what her IT department had missed. Here, he pointed to the server logs. Someone accessed these files remotely 2 days after the fire, deleted the original reports and replaced them with altered versions. Who? The login credentials are encrypted, but the IP address traces back to your operations department. Marcus. It had to be Marcus. We need to get the original files, Elena said. They must be backed up somewhere. Physical backup drives, Daniel suggested. Off-site storage. Every major corporation keeps them for disaster recovery. They were leaving the server room when the lights went out. Not a power failure, manual shutdown. And they heard the door lock click behind them. Marcus's voice came through the intercom, smug and satisfied. I wondered if you'd figure it out, Elena. You always were too smart for your own good. Marcus, let us out. I don't think so. See, tomorrow morning, they'll find you breaking into the server room, probably trying to delete evidence. So tragic. And that electrician with you? Obviously your accomplice. This will ruin what's left of your credibility. You killed a man to frame me? Elena's voice was ice. I didn't kill anyone. I just made sure the maintenance got delayed long enough to create an incident. The fire was unfortunate, but convenient. And now you'll take the fall while I take your position. Daniel had been quietly working at the door's electronic lock. Keep him talking, he whispered. Marcus, you won't get away with this. I already have. By tomorrow, you'll be... The door burst open. Daniel had bypassed the lock's security using the emergency override he'd installed during routine maintenance months ago. They ran. Marcus had cut the main power to trap them, but Daniel knew these systems. He led Elena through the darkened building using emergency routes marked only on maintenance maps. They reached the backup server storage in the basement. Physical drives, offline storage, everything that Marcus couldn't delete remotely. Marcus appeared at the door, and this time he had a steel pipe in his hands. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You're not doing this. Elena stepped in front of Daniel. I'm not letting you hurt her, Daniel said, moving her behind him. Marcus swung the pipe at the server rack, trying to destroy the evidence. Daniel tackled him, and they went down hard. The pipe skittered across the floor. Sparks flew as Marcus, in his rage, damaged a junction box. Live wires, water from sprinklers, a lethal combination. Daniel pushed Elena clear just as the electrical arc exploded, his body taking the shock meant for her. He went down hard, convulsing. Daniel, Elena screamed, grabbing a fire blanket and smothering the electrical fire. She pulled him away from the current, started CPR like she'd learned years ago and barely remembered. Security arrived, drawn by the sprinkler alarms. Paramedics, police. Daniel gasped back to consciousness. His first words, "Did you get the drives?" Elena laughed through her tears, holding the backup drive she'd grabbed during the chaos. I got him. We got him. Marcus was arrested on site, the evidence overwhelming once the original engineering reports were recovered. They showed he'd ignored safety warnings, falsified inspection records, and systematically created the conditions for disaster. Elena sat in the ambulance while they treated Daniel for electrical burns and smoke inhalation. You almost died for me. Why? I lost someone once because I wasn't there in time. I won't let that happen again. She took off her gold watch, the one the board had given her when she made CEO, worth $40,000. She pressed it into his hand. This belongs to someone who understands the value of every second. Not me. You. I can't take this. Yes, you can, because you're about to help me rebuild everything I broke. The scandal broke publicly 3 days later. Marcus Layton arrested for fraud, falsifying safety records, and attempted assault. Elena Voss cleared of wrongdoing, but voluntarily stepping back from day-to-day operations to restructure the company's safety culture. I was cleared legally, but not morally, she told the press conference. I should have looked deeper. I should have questioned more. I let profit margins matter more than people's lives. That ends now. She announced the creation of the Light Fix Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to training young electrical engineers and safety inspectors with a special focus on underprivileged communities. We need more people like Daniel Hayes, she said, people who understand that keeping the lights on is sacred work, that safety isn't a cost, it's a responsibility. Daniel watched the press conference from the shop, Lily beside him eating cereal before school. Dad, she's talking about you. She's talking about doing the right thing. That's bigger than any one person. His phone rang, Elena's personal number. I meant what I said. I need you. Will you be our safety consultant? I have a business, a daughter. I can't work full-time corporate. Part-time then. Name your terms. Half-time. And Lily comes with me. I'm not missing any more of her childhood for anyone's company. There was a pause, then Elena's voice, warmer than he'd ever heard it. Bring Lily. In fact, I'd like to meet her properly. The next day, Daniel and Lily visited Voss Tower, now renamed Everlight Tower in memory of Robert Chen and their commitment to safety. Elena's office had changed. Less marble and glass, more warmth and practical comfort. And in the corner, a children's space with books, art supplies, and a small desk. For Lily, Elena explained, I thought she might get bored during adult meetings. Lily's eyes went wide. I get my own office? You get your own space in mine, Elena corrected with a smile. I hear you like to draw. I draw lights and circuits, and Dad when he's working. Then you'll fit right in here. Over the following weeks, Lily became a regular fixture at Everlight Tower. She'd do homework in Elena's office, draw pictures that Elena would frame and hang, ask endless questions about business and electricity and life. Why did you used to be mean to my dad? Lily asked one afternoon with the brutal honesty of children. Elena set down her pen, considering how to answer truthfully but gently. Because I thought I was better than people who worked with their hands. I was wrong. Your father is one of the best people I've ever met. He is, Lily agreed matter-of-factly. He teaches me that fixing things is important, that helping people matters more than money. He taught me that too, but I was a slower learner than you. They tested new emergency lighting systems together, the three of them. Daniel explaining the technical aspects, Elena ensuring they met business needs, Lily asking questions that made both adults think harder about user experience. Why do emergency lights have to be ugly? Lily asked. They don't, Daniel said slowly. We just make them that way because we think function and beauty are separate. But they're not, Elena added, seeing where this was going. We could design emergency systems that are both safe and beautiful. It became a project. Lily's drawings turned into Elena's funding, turned into Daniel's engineering. A new line of safety equipment that didn't look institutional and cold, but warm and human. One evening, after a successful product test, they ordered pizza to the office. Lily fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from excitement and a full day of helping. Elena and Daniel sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights through the windows. She's wonderful, Elena said quietly, looking at the sleeping child. She's my whole world. I can see that, the way you talk about her, look at her, plan your life around her needs. It's beautiful. It's just being a parent. No, Elena shook her head. It's being a good parent. That's rarer than you think. She picked up one of Lily's drawings from the table. A family portrait in bright crayons. Daniel on the left, Lily in the middle, and on the right a woman with long dark hair labeled Miss Elena. She drew me into her family, Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. She draws what she wants to be true, Daniel said carefully. I hope that's okay. It's more than okay. It's the greatest honor I've ever received. On the wall behind Elena's desk, Lily had scrawled in washable marker, with permission, everyone deserves light. Elena had it professionally sealed, preserving the child's handwriting, turning it into permanent art. That's our new company motto, Elena said. Your daughter wrote it. A 9-year-old understands our mission better than I did after 10 years of business school. She understands that people matter. That light isn't about electricity, it's about hope. Will you teach me that? Elena asked. Really teach me, not just the technical parts, but the human parts? I think you're already learning it, Daniel said. The hard way maybe, but you're learning. Outside, the city glowed with thousands of lights, each one representing someone's safety, someone's work, someone's life. And for the first time, Elena understood that she was part of something bigger than quarterly earnings. She was part of the light. Sunday morning, 3 months later, Elena drove to Daniel's neighborhood, so different from her penthouse world. Small houses with chain-link fences, kids playing street hockey, dogs barking, life happening loudly and messily. She parked outside his shop, wearing jeans and a gray sweater, her hair in a simple ponytail, carrying a box of donuts from the bakery Lily had mentioned loving. A CEO slumming it in our neighborhood, Daniel teased when he opened the door, but his smile was warm. A woman visiting people she cares about, Elena corrected. Lily came running, launching herself at Elena with the confidence of a child who knew she was welcome. You came! Dad said you might be too busy. I'm never too busy for you two. They spent the morning together in the shop. Elena learned how to strip wires properly, solder connections, test circuits. Her manicured nails got dirty. Her expensive sweater got a small burn hole. She'd never been happier. You're a natural, Daniel said, watching her carefully connect a delicate circuit board. I had a good teacher. Lily was in the corner building a lamp from spare parts, humming to herself in her element. This is what you do every Sunday? Elena asked, looking around at the organized chaos of the shop. Lily and I fix things, sometimes for money, sometimes for neighbors who can't afford it. We teach her that skills should be shared, not hoarded. I want to be part of this, Elena said suddenly. Not as a client or a boss, but as someone who belongs here. Daniel set down his tools, giving her his full attention. What are you saying? I'm saying that I've spent 3 months watching you be a father, a teacher, a man of integrity. I've watched Lily grow and laugh and learn. And I realize that this, what you have here, is worth more than everything I spent years building. Elena, I'm not asking to take anything from you, she continued quickly. I'm asking if there's room for me, if you and Lily need someone who wants to learn how to be part of a family again. Lily looked up from her project. We need you, Miss Elena, right, Dad? Daniel looked at his daughter, then at Elena, then back at his daughter. What do you think, Lilybug? Should Miss Elena stay? Not Miss Elena, Lily corrected seriously. Just Elena. Family doesn't use Miss. Elena knelt down to Lily's level, eye to eye. I'm not trying to replace your mom, sweetheart. No one could ever do that. I know, Lily said, with the wisdom of children who understand more than adults expect. But Mom would want Dad to be happy, and you make him smile the way he does in old pictures. Plus, you're teaching me about business, and that's cool. Elena looked at Daniel, tears in her eyes. Is there room for me? There's been room since the day I carried you down those stairs, Daniel said quietly. I just wasn't sure if you'd want to fill it. She picked up the gold watch she'd given him months ago, the one he'd tried repeatedly to return. I gave you this because you understand the value of time. Now I want to spend mine here with you both, if you'll have me. We don't need expensive gifts, Daniel said. I know. That's why I want to be here. Because you don't need what I have. You need who I am, and I need who you help me become. The shop's lights glowed warm against the morning sun. Lily went back to her project. Daniel and Elena worked side by side, hands occasionally touching as they passed tools, comfortable silence punctuated by easy conversation. That evening, Lily drew a new picture. 3 people standing in front of a house made of lights. Underneath, in her careful handwriting, family is where you choose to shine together. Elena framed it immediately. It would hang in her office at Everlight Tower, but its twin would stay here in the shop, where light meant something different, but equally important. You know what I've learned, Elena said, watching Lily show Daniel her finished lamp, watching father and daughter share that moment of pride and joy. What's that? Daniel asked. Family isn't where you're born. It's where you choose to stay and keep choosing every single day. Even when it's hard, Lily asked, because she'd been listening. Especially when it's hard, Elena confirmed. That's when choosing matters most. Outside, the streetlights came on one by one, marking the transition from day to night. Inside, three people sat together in the warm glow of a workshop that had become so much more than a place to fix electrical problems. It had become a place to fix hearts, to build family, to create light in all its forms. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. If you believe stories of healing like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Hidden Heart Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.